Already got him laughing. Okay. So, well, it's really great having you here with us in Scottsdale to go over the planning of RAADfest and our excitement together. And thank you for being crazy enough with me to do this. And we have our whole team here. It's been really, really, thank you for coming.
Yeah, it was a really great idea of yours to have me and Natalie come over for a day, because, you know, it's been an extremely efficient day.
It has. We've got a lot done so far.
Done. I'm really stoked, you know. Now we've been going through the, you know, the scheduling, how to interleave the various topics and so on, and how, you know, how the various rooms within the venue are juxtaposed, you know. I'm even more excited than I was before, and I was really damned excited before. Yeah,
great, good to hear. I feel the same. Got a lot of good energy flowing. And speaking of energy, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier, and what do you feel in your own person as far as the energy in you that keeps you going? I mean, I know what I feel, but I've always been interested to hear you, but you never really talk about it a lot. But I know I've admired how you keep going through any obstacles, whatever it takes to stay alive, and your dedication to super longevity. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, well,
I share that same spirit, but I want to hear.
Exactly, I think both of us have that, and I'll be interested to hear your answer to the same question. But mine, I think, you know, I guess it's a combination of being energized by the people who make up this community, plus also a feeling of responsibility. Yeah. Because, you know, for someone in a position who've made a bit of a contribution to the field, but in particular someone like me who's in a position to make a lot more contribution going forward, you know, I feel I can't. It's just like it would be wrong to slow down. However, on the you know, like being stimulated by the rest of the community, yeah. I mean, you know, I feel every day, you know, from the energy that I get from people who look up to me and have been inspired by me to get into the field and so on. The people I look up to the most, to be perfectly honest, are the foot soldiers. The people who they work just as hard as me. They work, you know, they're just as dedicated. And nobody comes up to them in the street to ask for their autograph or whatever, you know. And they have that energy anyway. I know. It's remarkable. Like you met, some of our team here has been with us here for so long, and they're the foot soldiers. I always, you know, thank them profusely for their energy and their dedication, you know. Yeah, totally. And as you know, I mean, I'm very grateful for myself personally for what you've done and what you keep doing. Well, thank you. And for your continuous expansion, you know, like with us here at RAADfest. You know, I relate back, you know, of course, as you know, I've been working in super longevity since I was 21, you know, with Bernie and my other partner, Charles Brown. And I can imagine, I don't know how you feel about this, but I can imagine that anyone still can't perceive or embrace the excitement of staying alive, the energy that it produces in us, and the appreciation it gives in me, I know, for life itself and for people. I have actually gained, and that's what keeps me going a lot. Like, I think it's a relationship to what you're saying too, that these people who you share all this time with, and their inspiration with you, and what you see happen in lives as people become alive. I can't imagine not everyone not wanting to embrace, you know, super longevity, wanting to live. I'll just put it that way. Want to live unlimited lives, because it's much more exciting than staying complacent in life, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, there's a Bob Dylan quote, isn't there? Like, he's not busy being born, he's busy dying. Exactly. But no, I mean, I guess I don't really feel quite the same way, perhaps because I'm just a little bit aspy. And so you know, there are plenty of aspects of life in which I have always had difficulty understanding other people, and therefore I've kind of got used to not understanding people. And so when it comes to the longevity movement, you know, this mindset that is so ubiquitous in among humanity that I've called the pro-aging trance, of, you know, finding desperate,
I like that terminology,
arbitrarily illogical ways to pretend that aging is a blessing in disguise and so on. You know, I've kind of got used to excusing that, if you like, because I feel like aging is just so ghastly that for most people, it's just more than they can do to focus on it. They have to put it out of their minds. However, illogical the arguments are that with which they do so, just in order to get on with their miserably short lives and make the best of it, rather than being preoccupied.
Aubrey, can you talk a little bit, perhaps, in terms of like what you're excited about, like what's happening in science that you're particularly interested in or excited about right now? That's going to be Radfest?
It's over the past nearly 30 years that I've been involved in this field. It's night and day how rapidly things are moving now compared to how they were. When I first started running my own conferences, the first one was in 2003, and there were no other longevity conferences in the world. There were gerontology academic conferences, and there was the A4M, and that was it, right? And even then, things were moving so slowly that I didn't have my conference every year, only every other year. It's completely different now. And I think that in terms of specific scientific progress, the thing I probably am most excited by is not really one thing, it's more the fact that so many things are moving fast enough now that we can start putting them together, which is of course the main focus of LEV Foundation's work, and it will indeed be the focus of one of the sessions that I'll be organising at Radfest. Because I've known for 25 years that the only way we're going to bring aging under proper, comprehensive medical control is by a divide and conquer strategy. And for any divide and conquer strategy in any technology, it doesn't have to be medicine, you've got these two phases. You've got the phase where you develop the components, and then you've got the phase where you put them together and get the result. And usually, in most in engineering, that second part is the easy part. You kind of know pretty much for sure that once the individual components are working, the composite is going to work. In biology, it's not like that at all, because the system that we are trying to manipulate is a system that we are very, very ignorant about, that we know very, very little about how it really works. And so there's plenty of surprises that can happen at the putting together phase. So it's really fantastic for me that we have now reached the point where enough of the components are just about working that we can actually start asking these questions by putting them together and seeing what happens.
That is exciting. That's right. Okay. So things are starting to come together more and more. Wow. Well, that's why we're doing Radfest, and why we want to do it together is to bring the best that we can there for everybody, not just to come and just learn things, but also have extended hope, right?
Totally.
That this is really a real world we're creating together, and that's what's kept me going a lot too. Is that, hey, I see the reality of this. I understand why a lot of people like you said don't necessarily embrace longevity yet, because for one thing, they've been programmed for thousands of years, contrary to that. So I understand that. I'm not critical of people on that level, but also I see this passionate way of life that can, create a fire in their belly, that even people who are older, consider older. I tell them, it's never too late. It's never too late to open up the door, open up your hearts to living in a way you never had before. Yeah, but I'm excited to have this movement now, because we're gonna do fantastic things together at Radfest, I feel.
The thing that has always frustrated me, and it still actually does perplex me with regard to that you were just saying, this the pro-aging trance, as I've called it, is that it seems to revolve around forgetting that other people matter.
Yeah.
So, if one's only thinking about oneself, then one can be in a state when one's young thinking like, it'll be in time. The end of aging will come along in time for me, whatever I do. So I'll just do something else.
Exactly.
And similarly, if you're in middle age or maybe older, you may be thinking, well, it's definitely not going to come along in time for me, whatever I do. So I might as well just find something else to do.
Exactly.
And the worst of it is that the gap between the two ends up being zero.
Yeah, that's right.
People by the time people get used to the idea that they might actually be old enough to need this, they switch immediately into thinking they're too old to benefit.
That's right.
But of course, none of that works if you care about other people.
Yeah.
Right? If you care about other people, then the entire spectrum.
It does.
And that's certainly, I see myself as being mostly driven by that. I see myself as
I love that.
mainly a humanitarian.
Good. Yeah. I think that's the core makeup of who we really are on that level. Because I always, from a young age, felt I could feel people outside myself and could feel empathy. I could feel like, oh wow, I want these human beings to live, not just myself. And I've been able to get past myself in that, right? You know, just not about me. It's about humanity as a whole.
Right. Exactly that.
So is there something that you're particularly excited about that's happening now in longevity in regards to RAADfest 2025?
Yeah, I'm excited because I am seeing, of course, when I first started in like relationship to what you were saying in 1971, speaking on immortality or longevity, there wasn't any science. And so we were looking for science all the time. I thought I was doing things like I thought was as much science as I could get, like, you know, cleansing, all different things like this, you know, but so I'm so grateful today, you know, that we have, that you and others now that I've been able to come in contact with that are doing what you do, and I'm adding what I add to the pot, and I think we're creating something that's so powerful, not just in the innovations and the science, but also the mindset that we're changing in people, that we've changed around us. I see people change when they embrace the idea that death is not inevitable, that they have hope. I see them change organically. They become, in one sense, kinder people. You know, and so this is an amazing thing that happens. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the new, not only living forever, but living forever with strength, vitality, and beauty. I want heaven here on earth, and that may seem like wild to some people, but why not? Why feel we have to die to go to heaven? Why can't we create heaven here on earth?
Well, you're actually reminding me of something that a lot of people don't know, that the person with whom I created my first foundation, the Methuselah Foundation, were the businessman Dave Goebel was his name, who is a Jehovah's Witness. And they literally believe exactly what you just said, that the goal of humanity is to create heaven on earth. And so he has gone through some tough times since he embarked on this crusade with me back in 2003 or so, because his community, the Jehovah's Witnesses community, don't really see it that way. I mean, they see it that way, but they don't see it as compatible with the idea of trying to bring aging under medical control. Even in his own family, you know, he's gone through some crises.
I'll bet.
Because of that. So it's a lot of people are not very logical. Whatever their beliefs, their beliefs don't necessarily translate into a logical about action.
Yeah, that's an issue a lot. So RAADfest is a nonprofit, Coalition for Radical Life Extension is a not-for-profit organization, and I'm always been, I'll say, alert to the point that I never wanted to just come across or be commercial from the standpoint, because I've always felt a kind of conflict of interest, where people really know that what we're bringing to them is just, we're bringing them the best we can bring in without trying to sell them something per se. Not against anybody selling anything by any means, but at the same point, I think that's a key component, and I've always saw you that way too. You're out there just giving the best that you can give, and you know, you're not out there peddling something. You're moving for a big cause that's bigger than any of us as individuals, really.
Well, absolutely, and of course, LEV Foundation is also a non-profit, 501c3, just like you guys.
Right.
And so were my previous two organizations. And one thing that is a downside of that is that it means that when somebody gives me money, they're never going to get any of it back. Whereas if you're investing in a private sector company, then you're doing so in order to eventually have a return. And investors do tend to write bigger checks than donors do. So so in that sense, it makes it harder. But on the other hand, it also makes it easier to be unbiased, not only in one's words but also in one's actions.
That's right.
And in fact, it's one of the things. In fact, the thing that perhaps most singularly marks out the organisations that I've led from the whole of the rest of the of the movement is that we're a research organisation because we're funded only by philanthropy. We are not beholden to short-termism. In the private sector, obviously, everyone who wants to make money, they want to make it tomorrow. And in the academic sector, it's actually even worse for a different reason, that in order to get promoted, in order to get your next grant application funded, you have to publish high-profile papers all the time, and that means again you're pushed really hard into the low-hanging fruit, and everything else gets neglected. Largely, that's because the youngsters in academic labs are looking for their next job. Nobody works for me looking for their next job. So, and the same for you, right?
I do. That's right. That's right.
So that does make it easier.
That's great. Yeah. I'm also very. I'll use the term proud that we've created an event, and we're doing this together, that people can come, any scientists, any doctors, and say what they really feel.
Right.
They don't have to water it down unless they just want to. They don't have to say it like it is or how they feel it, and have the freedom to do that. And that's what's powerful also about RAADfest, because too often we can get ourselves as human beings back in that box again, afraid to go for the radical. But People Unlimited and itself, who has been working, with RAADfest to promote it, our attitude is just like, wow, we need to get outside that box because we're creating the radical.
Right.
And so it's great to see that type of atmosphere where people can come and go, wow. And I've had doctors say that to me that come there in science. Oh, I felt such a freedom to say what I really think here. So.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So I'm a person who's interested in longevity, but I'm maybe disappointed or losing hope, and maybe I would come to RAADfest if I was feeling a little bit more hopeful. What would you say to me or to anybody to inspire that optimism?
I'd say there are three things. First of all, there is the hardcore science that the speakers I'm bringing in are going to be presenting. One can understand at a deeper level how much progress is being made, and that progress is accelerating. Then, from the kind of speakers that have traditionally come to RAADfest, the kinds that you're going to be inviting, there's a lot of what's already available. There's a lot of what one can do already that one may not have understood in as much detail as one could have done. Right. And then the third thing, probably the biggest of the three, is the fact of simply being in the same room together for a few days.
Yeah.
The reason I ran conferences starting in 2003 is probably the exact same reason that you guys started RAADfest. That, the esprit de corps that comes from actually having a beer together or whatever it is, just can't be. It just can't. You can't get it without in any other way.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that power of togetherness. I understand. If you feel alone, you feel you're in the world. Maybe you have loved ones that are sick, or you're not feeling well yourself. You can get down under that, but know that there's people in this world, and you will meet them at RAADfest that care about you being alive. And I remember what David Kekich used to always say: "Your best friends are those who want you alive." Yep. And so wow, it's amazing. Again, when I go there, I'm an upbeat person about our life, but when I go there, I even get more energized because of that camaraderie and,
totally.
and the connection you make. So I want to tell everybody who's listening, you're never alone. You won't be alone at RAADfest if you come by yourself or with anybody, because there's people there that are waiting for you and to share their aliveness with you.
But I could not put it better.
Yeah.